Oh, hey Horace, how you doing? What's up?
I'm bored. I need someone to hang out with.
Don't I count?
Have you ever battled vicious spiders on an alien planet? Or collected dots while you were chased by severed heads? Or gone skiing?
Well, no.
Then we would have nothing to talk about. I need a friend who's had great adventures. Someone who can reminisce about the good old days.
I'm sorry, Horace, I wouldn't even know where to start finding someone like that for you.
Excuse me? Perhaps I can help.
In a world where every console has a mascot associated with it, for better or worse, it can come as a shock that early computers launched without a mascot in mind. Amstrad, however, did things differently. When the CPC launched, a range of software started to trickle out from its official software house, Amsoft, all ostensibly starring the same character, some guy called Roland. Roland doesn't fit the usual mould for gaming mascots. For one, he hardly ever looks the same from game to game. He lacks a consistent theme to his games, but then again, so does Horace, so we can give that one a pass. And there's no consistent world for him to inhabit, although, once again, that is kind of true of Horace as well. In the early days of computing, it was really only the name of the character that seemed to matter. Mario changed all that, but then again, Mario only got his first name the year before Roland launched. So remember, he was called Jumpman at first, and his creators still can't decide what his second name is, so maybe he's not the best example to bring up.
Hey!
What now, Horace? Can we have a little less about the plumber and more talking about me, if you don't mind?
Yeah, what he said.
Okay, sure, fine. Welcome to episode 2 of the Mascot Wars. Today we're looking at Amstrad's foray into the mascot market with Roland. Let's take a look at his first game. Which game was your first, by the way? You know what? I don't actually know. Wonderful. Let's just pick one. Here's Roland on the ropes. When the Amstrad CPC 464 first arrived on high street shelves, 2 Roland games were all ready to go. Coded sometime in 1983 as part of a licensing deal with Induscomp, the Spanish distributors of the CPC, they were hasty rebuilds of existing games for the ZX Spectrum. As such, they do a pretty good job of showing just how colourful and how much more powerful the Amstrad CPC was when compared to Sinclair's juggernaut of a machine. This game is a clone of Fred, the popular Spectrum game that sees an archaeologist attempting to escape from a haunted pyramid. In the original, Fred is a well-drawn yellow sprite who has to navigate around garish cyan mazes, avoiding some of the cutest ghost sprites I've ever seen, and occasionally shooting them when they get too close. In Roland on the Ropes, you play as Roland, an archaeologist attempting to escape from a haunted pyramid. Now you're in full colour, and the maze is beautifully coloured. This game is an absolute pleasure to look at. All the sprites are the same as in their Spectrum counterpart, and instead of colour clash when sprites overlap, we're treated with a flickering screen whenever Roland moves. Frankly, I'd have preferred the colour clash. The title music is jolly, and the game, on the whole, is very well put together. The in-game sound effects are chirpy and bright, which shows off the CPC's capabilities nicely. It's a shame there is no in-game music, but oh well, we can't have everything. Gameplay-wise, this is a great game. It's a lot of fun, and it looks lovely to boot. The only downside is the screen flicker, which wasn't anywhere to be seen in the original. Now, I'm sure it could have been worked out if they'd had a bit more time, but it's clear that Induscomp were rushed to finish this and the other game as part of their deal with Amstrad. As it stands, it's a good launch title, and it did do well to set Roland up as a good mascot, so that's pretty cool. But what was that other game that we mentioned? What accompanied Roland on the Ropes? Well, it's time to have a look at Roland in the Caves. Okay, what the hell? That's our mascot? That Flea? Our mascot is a flea now? Why, Amstrad? Why is our mascot a flea? Look, it's just a phase I was going through, you know? We all have phases. I bet you were into some weird stuff when you were younger. I was never into being a flea. Then you missed out? Oh, be quiet. Let's get back to the game. This is another clone of a Spectrum game, this time of a classic, Bugaboo the Flea. The aim of the game is to navigate your way upward through a cavern to reach the exit in the ceiling. There's a pterodactyl flying around that will eat you if you don't avoid it, because of course there is, and the CPC recreates the original in a fantastic, colourful graphic style. This is a really well-made game, and there's nothing to fault it in terms of gameplay. The sound effects are basic bleeps, which isn't great, but is at least in keeping with the original game, I suppose. The title music is fantastic though. La Cucaracha has never sounded so 8-bit. The controls are pretty simple. You just press a key to jump left or right. Oh, and that reminds me, this game doesn't support joystick controls, so yeah, you have to use the keyboard. Hold the key down for longer and you'll jump further, although I did notice that the controls are very sensitive, so it's easy to overjump your target. Maybe that's why there's no joystick support. In addition, the game is mega difficult, and when I first played it back in the 80s, it was a special day if I could actually get out of the first cave. Despite the difficulty, it's a really fun game, so whether you're playing the original or the CPC remake, if you can get over the ridiculous premise, I think you'll really enjoy it. Give it a try, it's a classic. As launch titles go, Roland and the Caves and Roland on the Ropes are surefire winners. They presented the CPC as a powerful machine with great high-colour graphical capabilities. And what's more, they were great fun to play. So what's next? Can Amstrad keep up its great success with the third outing for Roland? In a word, no. Roland Ahoy is a stupid game with next to no gameplay involved in it. The title screen is nice with its flashing star effect and giant Roland label that changes colour. There's no music, however, except for a quick buzzer-like tune just before you start to play, and I doubt it's because the coders ran out of memory to play with. When I first saw this game in Amstrad's catalogue, it looked amazing. I really wanted it. So imagine what I felt like when, years after seeing all of these great-looking graphics and lovely colours, what it felt like to actually play it. There's no game here. You just navigate your ship in silence around a couple of obstacles, grab some shot for your cannons, then fire at the barricade that's stopping you from reaching a port. If you get hit, you get a decent enough buzzer-like sound as the ship sinks. Similarly, you'll also get some sound when cannons fire and when you get shot while trying to grab some ammo, but the rest of the game is in silence. This isn't exactly Sid Meier's Pirates, is it? If you do get into port, you get to grab some gold, which is essentially the same game as grabbing the ammo. Then you get to drop the gold off at a pirate's cove. Rinse and repeat until you lose all your lives. That's it, that's the entire game. After 2 decent games, we got this crapped out dross. When compared to the Horace games, this is about the level of Horace and the Spiders in terms of gameplay. Although I think Horace is actually edging into the lead thanks to his clone of Space Panic being reasonably playable. Speaking of Space Panic clones, Roland brought us Amstrad users our own version of that classic arcade game, complete with wonderful bright graphics and a brilliant title tune. You can turn the music on and off by pressing the enter key just in case you don't like the tune as much as I do. This game is fairly simple. You have to defeat these alien things by digging holes that they will fall into, and then pushing them through the holes using your spade so that they can drop to their doom. You climb ladders to reach higher points in the level, and either climb down the ladders or fall through the holes if you want to get further down the screen. So far, so simple. If an alien drops into a hole and you don't get to it in time, the alien will get angry and start to chase you around the level. If this happens, you will need to trap the alien in a hole and then drop it down through 2 holes rather than just 1, otherwise it will survive and continue to chase you. As the game progresses, the number of aliens per level increases, and that really does ramp up the difficulty level, especially once you reach the point where there's an alien starting on every platform on the screen, including the one that you start on. The game gets quite frantic at this point, so my advice is to secure a space on the level for yourself as quickly as you can, and then try to drop as many aliens as you can until the level quietens down a little. It's not always easy to do, but it's worth risking a tricky start in order to give yourself a decent chance. Roland Goes Digging is one of my favourite games from the early CPC era, and I still go back to it for some fun gaming even now. It's a simple arcade game at heart, but it's well put together and a lot of fun. I really like it. So after Roland went digging, what next? Okay, this is a joke, right? What the hell happened to Roland? Here's the thing. Roland, the mascot on the Amstrad, has no set look to him. His design was left up to the coders of every individual game. He has no design, no personality, nothing. He's little more than a name, really. His face changes more often than Doctor Who changed main actors, and that's actually true at this point in time because when the CPC finished production, there were only 7 Doctors, but Roland had 9 games, and he looked different in 8 of them. But despite all that, despite the fact that he's been everything from a workman to a flea, nothing prepares you for how stupid he looks in this game. In Roland Goes Square Bashing, Roland is a sugar cube with legs. A sugar cube with legs. What were the programmers thinking? Despite that, despite the fact that they've reduced Amstrad's mascot to a waddling brick, This game is actually fun. It's a Qubit clone because, let's face it, Roland very rarely gets a unique game to himself. And as Qubit clones go, this is actually a good one. So let's take a look. This is a wonderful looking game with nice, chunky Mode 0 graphics and has a lot of personality to it. The puzzles start off reasonably simple, once you get used to the isometric controls that is, but quickly get fiendishly difficult, requiring route memorization if you are going to get around the maze within the allotted time. Yes, that's right, this game has a time limit. If you stay in a square too long, it will disappear from underneath you, and old Roland will fall to his doom. Which, given that being forced into a sugar cube shape must have been very painful for him, I'm sure he actually welcomed. For me, if it was a choice between painfully being shoved into a cube shape and the endless void of space, bring on the endless void. Okay, that's the first wave of Roland games over with, so let's take a look at how he's shaping up so far. Roland on the Ropes is a decent game, especially for a launch title. The same goes for Roland in the Caves. Both of those games are well worth giving a try. Then we got Roland Ahoy. Now, this isn't a terrible game, and goodness knows we'll see a terrible one before we're finished here, but it's nowhere near a good game either. It's going to have to go in the middle. Next, we have Roland Goes Digging, which is a fantastic little arcade game, even if the music can start to grate after a while. But at least the CPC has a volume control, so you can turn it down or turn it off if you want to. Not all computers came with one of those, did they, BBC? What were they thinking? Anyway, Roland Goes Digging definitely fits into the good pile. I think we've got to throw Roland Goes Square Bashing into that pile too. It's just a good, fun game, despite the stupid look of our protagonist. So, in a surprise twist to these proceedings, Roland is coming out quite well. He's got 4 good games and 1 passable one, so he's holding them pretty well, isn't he? Yeah. Let's get the crap out of the way now, shall we? While we're feeling good with ourselves? Here's Roland on the Run, and if you're seeing this for the first time, I really apologise because yes, they really did try to charge money for this. This is a kind of reverse Frogger, where the idea is to try and get a load of Rolands off a train and into some bunkers across a busy road. The Rolands can jump from the train into some trucks, and from there you're on your own, because I couldn't get them to jump anywhere further after that. This game is a mess. It's nice and colourful, I'll give it that, but of the 3 controls to make Roland jump, only one from the train into the first line of trucks seems to work. Why's that? Simple. Whenever you jump a Roland into a truck, control seems to revert back to the next Roland, who is on the train. Even when I can actually get a Roland on the truck to flash, which means you're in control of that Roland, I still can't make him jump 9 times out of 10, and on the 10th try, he'll jump when I don't want him to, thus losing me a life. So no wonder it lets you start having 255 lives right from the start of play. You can go through them like nobody's business. There is nothing going for this game. It's a mess. The sound is terrible, the game slows down whenever you try to move a Roland out of a truck, and it's awful to play. It's definitely one for the bad column. So can we move on now, please? Please do. Thank you. Okay, let's move on with the first of the Doctor Who themed Manic Miner clones. Here's Roland in Time. Oh yeah, this is it, the big one. 53 screens spread over 9 time zones that you can switch between at will, and each with a huge amount of collectibles, fiendish platform puzzle action and lots of luscious colour. It's an early Amstrad CPC game at its finest. The title screen sets the scene and shows us exactly what we're in for. This may be a Manic Miner, or to be more accurate, Jet Set Willy clone, but it's got heavy trappings of Doctor Who laid on for good measure. Roland is now a time traveller who has been, according to the cassette's inlay, stranded on Earth by the evil Maestro. So yeah, we're deep into Doctor Who pastiche territory here. Roland needs to collect all the power crystals to get the special drive on his antimatter space-time runaround, or Amstrad for short, working again. This is a wickedly difficult game and immense fun to play. There's a lovely rendition of the Doctor Who theme tune on the title screen, and then when you're actually playing, it's the Happy Wanderer. And it's wonderfully done. This demonstrates exactly what the CPC could do in its early days when the sound programmer is worth their salt. We may have just had one of the worst games of all time with Roland on the Run, but Roland in Time shows that Roland as a mascot still has a lot going for him. It's classic platform action at its finest, and may well be one of the best games on the CPC. So how do you follow this up? What could possibly be in store for Roland after his many adventures through time? Well, a brilliant adventure through space, of course. Let's take a look at the only official sequel in the entire Roland canon. The direct tie-in to Roland in Time, Roland in Space. This is the only game in the series to take advantage of the Amstrad SSA-1 speech synthesizer, although I'm not sure what use it makes since I literally only just found out that this device exists. Java CPC creator Marcus Homan has an SSA-1, however, and he's put this footage on YouTube showing the device in action.
Amstrad and Chem software proudly present Roland in space, 9 generations left.
If you're familiar with early speech synthesis, you'll know that that's actually pretty good. That voice was actually decent for a synthesizer of that time. I'm not sure it actually enhances the game in any way. I mean, it's just reading what's on screen, but it's a nice addition and a fun novelty, let's put it that way. Roland in Space presents us with the only official reuse of a sprite for our main character. Roland continues to look bright and recognisably human in this outing, which lent itself to confirming his fan-chosen official look. A guy with a bright pink face and no dress sense. Hey! What? That outfit was all the rage on Tau Ceti 17B. Well, we're not on Tau Ceti 17B. Well, fair point. Continue. Thank you. I will. Now, Roland is tasked with building a super weapon to defeat the Maestro. Personally, I'd say that was a bit of an overreaction to being stranded on Earth, and I'm kind of seeing why the Maestro might have thought it was the best course of action. Roland seems a little aggressive, don't you think? If you think I'm bad, you should see the other guy. Fair point. We haven't actually seen this Maestro guy, have we? So anyway, there are 7 planets to visit in this game, and all but one present you with a huge scrolling level to explore. This game really does feel like it took the original premise from Roland in Time and expanded on it, as a good sequel should. You can actually scroll around the level with the cursor keys if you want to. Just make sure old Roland is stood somewhere safe when you do that, since you still only get 9 lives. Gone are the flick screen antics of the previous game. Now everything scrolls with you using push scrolling. It makes the game easier in some respects because you know what's coming up, but on the other hand, it makes things more difficult in certain areas because enemies can come at you from off screen. So it really is essential to take a look around from time to time to make sure you're aware of what's coming up. In many respects, this is more of what we've already seen before. It's another Jet Set Willy clone, but with a nice effect of being able to jump back to the ship at any time you want to let you jump to another level. There are a few issues with it, however. I've already covered how the enemies can come at you from nowhere, but that doesn't quite explain just how infuriating these enemies are. For a start, they can move faster than you. That's not necessarily bad, but it does make the fact that sometimes you'll be walking right into their flight path more than a little bit annoying. Add to that the fact that the in-game music is nowhere near as enjoyable as with Roland in Time, and the game as a whole becomes fun, but not as fun as the previous one. I like it, despite those drawbacks, and I think you'll like it too, but these are points that do need to be borne in mind. So that's another 2 games stacking up on the good column. Roland really is doing very well here. What's his final game going to be? You're kidding me. That's how Roland goes out? That? A type-in? He ends it on a type-in? This is the CPC's mascot. Their answer to Mario, for goodness sake. How? How does he go out on a type-in? He should have gone out with Roland in Space. That would have been a fitting end to his career. But now what's he doing? What's old Roland doing in this, his final game? I'll tell you what. He's wandering around Amstrad's headquarters, picking up discs and avoiding the roaming giant head of Alan Sugar. I'll give it its due, this isn't a bad game. It's just nowhere near good enough after what we've seen in Space and Time. It's another Manic Miner clone, and I have to admit, as basic games go, it's pretty responsive. The graphics are colourful enough, and it might keep you entertained for a few minutes, possibly even long enough for you to think it wasn't a waste of your time to type it all in. But it's not a fitting end to our mascot's career. It's not bad enough to put against Roland on the Run, but it is kind of on the same level as Roland Ahoy. It's one for the intermediate pile then. And on that note, our journey through the career of Roland comes to an end. Or does it? The reason I ask isn't because Roland went on to a long and illustrious career in fan-made games, because he didn't, but instead I ask because of this little gem. This is Doors of Doom, also one of the early Amstrad CPC games. Take a look at our protagonist here. Doesn't he look familiar? Did Roland go off for another adventure defeating the Maestro after Roland in Space? I'll let you decide. Yeah, 'cause I'm not telling. Anyway, that's really all we've got time for, isn't it? Because we've gone through some great games here, some intermediates, and one pile of absolute train wreck. Roland holds up well as a mascot, and his adventures help build the CPC a great library of games. It's been a lot of fun playing through these, and I think if you give them a try, because they're available widely on the Amstrad CPC wiki and other websites, then it's worth having a look and seeing some of the great classics from the CPC era. But anyway, like I say, that's all we've really got time for this week, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked this, and if you did, remember to click that like button, share it with your friends so they'll know a good game when they see it, and do subscribe for future videos because there will be more in the future. But until next time, I've been Kirk-Robinson, you've been watching GameHammer on the Knob Mouse channel, and I'll see you later. Bye.